right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How we feeling on a beautiful Wednesday? Finally, we got the Oilers and the Canucks joining us in the second round tonight.
Awesome.
Positive Wednesday.
Positive Wednesday, that's right.
We're supposed to do that?
That's right. Very positive. Very positive.
Positive Wednesday, Oilers tonight, but this
we got
morning.
another guy that's having a tough Wednesday already.
Uh-oh, what's up? What do we got?
Just looking for three new
Can you hear
friends
him? I can't hear him.
Oh, okay, I can. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's all good. What do you got? Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah, just looking for three new friends. Golf this morning. Had to play a $100 match, standard Wednesday. My guy's late. I got to play the match without him for 6 holes. And then it's just like, I don't know. You can't be late. And then the other two guys, I've never seen this from grown men before. We're snickering at missed putts and stuff like that.
Oh, I know that. I know that.
Seen that?
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen. Like when you play money games or you play competitions or match play games, you get so angry at yourself, and then you try to keep it together, and your buddy starts to melt, and it's just a really weird, horrible.
Oh, there's nothing worse to watch or be a part of. Like, it's awful, right? Like, when you're both like, there's nothing worse when you're mad at your partner, but you're also garbage. You're like, how do you have the right to be mad? You're terrible.
Well, that is the self-reflection you need to have, because I've been in that, like in a member guest, where like my buddy Adam and we've been in the member guest for a few years, and he'll blow up on a hole and I'll be like, come on, man. And then the next hole, I will snap hook one into the trees.
And by the way, you know that he's watching you in the card saying, okay, dude, like, it's on you. I need you to hit a shot here. And when you chunk one, you secretly want to strangle your own friend.
It really is a wild, wild relationship and experience, because if you chili chunk like a big one.
Awful, man.
Especially if there's a conversation where it's like, I don't know, maybe you should putt this. Texas wedge, just get up there, right? Yeah. Get up there and give yourself a shot. Now I'll pull out the 60 degree and try to put some spin on it. You chunk it, and then you're like, all right, well, okay, fine, all good. Recover. We'll see where it takes us from here. And then inevitably, you're the next one to screw up. Like, it always works that way, because I've been in that spot. I'm like, man, come on, I needed that out of you. And then the next one, literally, I slice one off the planet. I'm like, who am I to start saying anything? Because he's thinking the same thing.
But my concern, guys, is, like, have you ever had, like, a game where, have you ever quit, like, picked up your ball and just said, I'm done?
No,
like,
that's really a crazy person.
Like,
I've seen that.
I feel like, do you know somebody? Have you played with somebody who just packed it in and said, I'm done for the day?
I've seen that. I have to be careful here, because I don't want to name names. It's someone within the family tree.
Really?
On a golf trip. All right. So we invested in travel, in greens fees, and he got through 9 holes and said, screw it, I can't do this, and started walking back to the clubhouse and didn't play the back 9. And it was one of the more wild scenes I think I've ever seen in my life.
Like, just that terrible that he's just
awful,
like, I can't.
Was
now, is
so
it because
mad at himself.
You guys were hungover or something, and he's just not into it? Like,
he just was like, I'm playing so poorly. I'm so angry. I'm so mad. I hate that I'm down here. I wish I was at work right now. And he just said, I'm packing it in, and I'm going home.
It's Ray Ferraro.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Ray. I've actually never played with Ray. I could see Ray doing that, though. I could see Ray playing like Augusta National, putting 2 in the drink on 12 and saying, I hate this place, and quitting.
Was it me?
No, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. This was 20 years ago, a family member of mine.
Was it me? This is the best part. So you're admitting, have you quit on the court? Have you packed up? Like,
I've seen him pack up shop a year ago. I saw him pack up.
You just left on what? 9
I didn't
or
leave.
12? Or?
It was the conditions were really crazy. I don't want to get into it. It's
but anyway, I just got to get into the monkey
I apologize.
business.
I don't want to hit a nerve for anybody here.
Right. There was snickering. These two guys, Danny and Mike. There was snickering and laughing, and then the immaturity continued into the group chat where it was like, great drive on 16, Danny. Oh, great putt by you, Mike. It's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
I know.
I can't do that. I honestly can't. And my own partner misses the first 6 holes, so I have to take on the other two guys by myself which started my brain into, you guys know where that headspace goes. And I'm like, how are you late? Can't be late. Lives far away, but you got to plan ahead.
Can't do it, man. You got to ham and egg. If you're going to team up, you got to ham and egg.
That's
if you're
it.
just hamming it, there's no egg, and you're in big trouble.
Let's get ready for Oilers Canucks, but
Yes.
I need 3 new friends for Wednesday.
Okay, well, there it is. We'll put that out there, and maybe the Leafs are available to join you, right? Maybe it's possible someone on the Leafs could join you on Wednesdays moving forward. And I think we need to get set for tonight. Have you seen this couple that has gone viral online? Much like Al's brother in his shanty a year ago, his sea shanty, or that was a couple of years ago. I think last year he had a Bieber rendition of something.
Wasn't it him and a buddy or his brother were rapping and something
Yeah,
like that?
that was last year he had the rap. 2 years ago he had the sea shanty.
Okay.
But there's a couple in Edmonton, big Oiler fans, that are really trying to get people jacked for Game 1 tonight. Do you guys want to hear a little bit of this?
Sure, I'd love to hear.
Just
I
to
haven't
kind of
seen
set
this.
the tone on what we've got tonight. All right, let's hear it.
Time to ride the cane train. All aboard, let's stand the
What on earth?
Isn't that the guy who sings the anthem?
He's parked in front. He's parked in front and on the hunt.
You know the Oilers are ready. You know McDavid is ready. Your Capitan, your Capitan. Oh, Capitan.
No, turn this off.
I'm jacked. I think the Oilers sweep. Oilers in 3 after
That's
that.
La Bamba. They're
That's
doing it
La
to La Bamba.
Yes.
Obviously, that's their song because of Joey Moss and all that, right?
Right,
Play La
after the
Bamba.
game they play that. Right after
Yeah.
wins, I believe they play that. But yeah, your Capitan, your Capitan.
I got to be honest.
I love
I like rivalries, and I like
Yeah.
animosity amongst fan bases. I'm actually somewhat concerned about what's going to be going on outside of the rink because it just seems like people have no control and it's a mess and there's no hey, enjoy the game tonight. We're talking. I just hope everyone keeps it together, man, because
Wow.
it's going to be a wild scene in both cities.
I was
A wild scene.
You remember, guys, I had just started with TSN. I was out there when the riot happened. The Boston, what it was that, 2011, the riot? I was there that afternoon. I had done a little That's Hockey with Gino before the game and then went to the game as a spectator. A couple drinks, enjoying myself, supposed to meet up with some buddies. And I barely made it to Gotham Steakhouse when all hell broke loose. And there were a bunch of idiots jumping on cars and burning stuff and all of that. And I think there was years later, there were charges still being laid for people that, they went through and were picking off cameras of going, that guy was jumping on a cop car and tipping over this. There were a bunch of idiots that.
Let's just
Yeah, it
hope
was
they
stupid.
keep
It
it
was
together.
silly.
Let's just keep it together.
You never hope, again, I'm not just pointing at a fan base. I'm pointing at people that made it bad for that fan base
Well,
because
they did
you
it
have
twice.
no idea what
They
right?
did it in '94 as well. I mean, it was the same
Yeah.
thing, '94 and 2011. I mean, Vancouver, I think, is very embarrassed about that. They should. And this
Right.
isn't the Cup final, but I understand what you're saying because I think it's going to be more antagonizing on both sides because there's going to be a
Right.
lot of people from Edmonton in Vancouver, a lot of people from Vancouver in Edmonton. There's going to be a ton of travel, and it's going to be a great series, like it should be. It again, 10 p.m. tonight, 10 p.m. Friday, 10 p.m. Sunday. Sucks for the East Coast, and I don't know how many people are going to watch. If you're in Newfoundland, dude, that's 11:30 p.m. start. If you're an Islander out in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, that's a really, really late start. But it gets cooking tonight, and it feels like it's long overdue.
It is. It's been a week.
Patterson's been sick, and I believe he's good to go tonight. Shilovs will play. The legend of a third-string goalie who's really found a rhythm, and it's like DeSmith isn't even in the conversation anymore, nor should he be. And this is what happens when you open the door. Obviously, when Demko returns, he's going to play, I would assume. But that's a good question. I don't know, Noodles, where you stand on that. If Demko's at 80% and this other kid is just lights out, how do you go to him? If he's available for Game 5 and, let's say, the Canucks are up 3-1 and this guy's standing on his head, do you put Demko in?
I think what you do is you slow play him. If he's 80%, then you go, you're not 100%. If the kid, if you're in full control.
But do you got to come
Right.
up with a lie, Noodles? Do you got to lie to the play? No, but do you say, hey, I think you don't actually mean this, but do you say, I think it's better for long-term health. It's too risky right now. You should give it one more. Do you have to come up with some garbage like that?
You might have to, but honestly, like Demko is one of the best 5 goalies on the planet. Like like Auston Matthews isn't. If he's healthy, he's playing. And I go, it's different position, all of that type of stuff. But you want Demko. I'll take 80% of Demko over most of the guys in the league because that means it's there. So. Yes, you're talking about mojo. We've talked about it, the Swayman, Allmark, all of that type of stuff. But I think it depends on where you are. And honestly, I haven't heard great things about Demko's health out there.
No, me neither.
I would argue that they're slow playing it and saying, yeah, he might be available for Game 4. That might be Game 4 of a next series if they make it through. Like that's what you're hearing type of stuff, that it's quite a significant injury. I hate that for Thatcher Demko. He had an amazing season. He's a top-tier goaltender. If he never got hurt, it would have been a coin flip between him and Hellebuck. Hellebuck's going to win it by a landslide, but the Demko injury took him out of that. And I still think he'll get top-tier votes. He's that good.
Yeah.
But that being said, you're right. Like you talk about coaches all the time with their gut feeling. Like if you're up 3-1, why would you change anything? If health permitting. Like, again, Demko's a different story, but if Sheloff has led you to that, probably go with the guy that got you there.
Absolutely, especially that position. Like you said, Matthews comes in. All right, he played on the third line. He played 16 minutes. So you ease him in. Can't do that with a goalie. You got to know exactly what you're going to get. And there were some wild games last night, man, and it would be a lot of fun to be a New York sports fan right now because the Knicks are going tonight. Game 2, Knicks Pacers at the Garden tonight. And last night, the Rangers really break the hearts of the Canes, and the Canes put himself in that position.
Trocheck, that was a penalty in overtime.
That was a soft call.
It's an awful
soft
penalty.
Call.
Like, give me a break, man.
It's a horrible penalty. Yeah, it's garbage. It shouldn't have happened. But at the end of the day, the Rangers, they didn't make the call, but they closed. Right, and the Canes had that game. They had the opportunity to win it in reg, and they couldn't hold on.
That was exciting hockey, man.
It was
I'll tell
a
you
great
what.
game.
That
last
was
night.
a fast-paced, good plays,
Yeah.
physical. Like that was just as good as hockey as you could watch. That's incredible.
I thought Carolina was the better team. I thought they were going to win that game. I thought Shesterkin was unbelievable. Not that Freddie didn't play well. I thought Freddie played outstanding, made some great saves. But Carolina continued to press. They played up pace. Like I thought they were fantastic last night. They just didn't get the win. It's unfortunate because they did have a couple opportunities in overtime on the power play. They just didn't score. And Shesterkin made some really big saves.
He was so good last night, man. He was so dialed in. And he made that stop on Stahl, like kind of off his toe and just pushed it into the corner in double OT. You could tell this guy was not going to be beat. And that's what becomes evident when you look at, we're doing a lot of cap conversations this week, right, with the Leafs and the core four. And, Dregg's got a report today. I believe he thinks it's more likely than not they'll move off Sheldon Keefe, but that hasn't happened yet. And he believes Darren Dreger, Craig Berube would be at the top of the list in terms of, who they would be looking at. But they're certainly looking at veteran coaches who have been around before. Mentioned Gerard Gallant, mentioned Todd McClellan. We have Dregs coming up just after 6 o'clock. But I saw that buzzing online last night that, the core four next year will cost about the same as Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, Fox, and Shesterkin. So you get 4 forwards for the Rangers, and then on top you get a number 1 defenseman in Fox and a number 1 goalie in Shesterkin. And that's the point. It's not that Matthews isn't better than those guys, but quite frankly, Panarin's number 2, right? Panarin had a better year than Willie. He's a better player, and Mitch. And Trocheck, look what he did last night. He played more than anybody last night. He played like 37 minutes or something crazy like that. And Kreider's a gamer. And anyway, it's not about just dumping on those guys all the time. The point is that they have
to change.
It's spread out, too.
They have
spread
4 forwards. Like, you got 2 centers, 2 wingers, a true number 1 defenseman, and a true number 1 goalie for the same price as the 4 Leaf forwards. So, exactly. And then on top of it, if you draft and develop and bring in some good pieces, the Rangers are in the same spot. They don't have some tax haven there. You know how expensive it is to be in New York and live in New York and work in New York? That's not Tampa or Arizona or Vegas or whatever. I mean, it's an original 6 team, tough market, no tax breaks, and you got to do it the tough way. And they bottomed out like 5-6 years ago. Bottomed out, and they put the pieces together, and look where they are now. They're up 2-0 and in the driver's seat against a really good Carolina team.
This is the last thing I'm going to say about this core four, and then we're basically dumping it. There was an opportunity for it to be successful, but guess what they got to do? They got to be game breakers in the playoffs. Like, they got to rotate nights where JT's unreal on the power play. Mitch Marner can't be a ghost out there. Like, if they're deciding games with their play, then you're like, that's worth the money and it's worth the risk. But that just didn't happen.
You got to do what Colorado did last night, where they're down
Thank
3
you very
pop,
much.
and it's okay. McKinnon, okay. Rantanen, okay. Makar, and then a depth player closes. Awesome. Depth scoring. Had to show up. Good for you.
And that's just not what happened. So
No,
it's like,
right.
therefore, it's just a failure. So
yeah, well,
that's
I mean,
it.
Colorado scored 4 goals last night. The Leafs haven't done that in 15 games in the playoffs. 15
that's
games ago,
crazy
they scored
still.
4.
That is still absurd for me.
Absurd to go 14 straight without getting to 4 on the scoreboard. 14 straight in the playoffs when you've got a guy who rips home 69. It's crazy. And Tavares, over the last decade, only 5 or 6 guys have scored more goals than him over the last decade. And, Willie rips home 40 every year. And it's crazy that they're in the position they're in.
Did I read a stat that Auston Matthews has 1 goal in his last 10 playoff games? Am I wrong with that?
He didn't score against Florida. He scored Game 6 against Tampa, so 5 against Florida, and then he scored 1 in this series. So, yeah, do the math. Yeah, 10 because he missed 2 games. Do the math.
Do the math. Yeah.
Do the math.
Do the math.
Yeah.
Which,
listen,
you're right.
I'm glad you brought that up because, positive news for him today. I don't know how much he cares about it, but he was nominated for the Ted Lindsay. Which is pretty incredible. Those are your peers, right? The players around the league, I think, looked at it and said, that guy ripped home 69 goals. How do I not vote for him?
Yep.
And maybe he wins the Ted Lindsay. Maybe he wins the Selke. He won the Rocket. But there was so much focus on Marner, so much focus on Keefe. And I understand he was sick and then hurt. But he's the best player. And his statistics in the playoffs have just simply not been good enough. Like, nowhere close to dominant. He's not even a point-a-game guy in the playoffs in his career. Yeah. And if McDavid had that, you know how much we'd be talking about it if McDavid just fell off a cliff and didn't put up points, or Draisaitl or McKinnon. And it has to start with your best guy. Like, this is where we get back to, if you're going to take the C off John and put it on Auston, he better be dogged next year. Like, it better be, I'm showing up in August and I'm going to the rookie camp and I'm setting a tone that we are winning, and I'm not going to put up with anything less than that. And I'm going to do what McKinnon's been doing and McDavid's been doing and Sid did his whole career. Because if you're going to be one of the greats of all time, and statistically and based on what he does in the regular season, that's the pace he's on. You got to, it's your legacy, man. You got to get it done in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, Matthews has to. And that's, we always come back to, like, greatest Leafs of all time. You just can't be at the top of the mountain if you've won 1 playoff series and you don't have a point a game in your playoff career. Like, he's got a lot to prove. And he kind of, because he got hurt and he got sick, and then it just got dusted under the rug. Like, all right, see you later, get out of here. He probably got off the hook, considering what happened again this year.
It's interesting because he wasn't pressed. Like, I know you don't have to share the injury, but I would like to, I think just as a fan, I would have liked to know just what he's battling through. Like, I feel bad for him, like.
Why is it such a big secret still? Like, I don't
know. I mean, we don't know what happened to Joseph Wall. We don't know what happened to Joseph Wall. We don't know what happened to Matthews. Like, Willie's, yes, they're migraines. He talked about it, how awful it was for him. Like, and I think we've talked about this. Had this team have had deep runs before, a conference final, or won a couple rounds here or there, you could clearly go, listen, it just wasn't their year. Willie misses 3 games, Austin's sick, then into an injury, Joseph Wall injury. Like, those aren't just, loser excuses. They're excuses that are legit, reasons why that could have contributed to why you didn't move on. But nobody's buying it because of the past track record of 8 years of this core and that group and all of that.
Yeah.
So nobody's sympathetic to it, even though they probably should be if you take a step back and go, yeah, I can see that. But you're going, This team has found a way to lose instead of finding a way to win. And you can point to Columbus, you can point to Montreal, and down the line against Boston. So that's where I think all the goodwill gets taken up with the scenario talking about injuries and opportunities and that. Am I wrong with that?
Well, yeah, and then on top of it, 14 straight without scoring.
Right.
And the power play, like there's more than that. Yes, I agree with you. That's a part of it. But also how they played game 1, game 4.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why they're in the position they're in. We'll find out, I guess, on Friday what's going to come out of this. But as of today, no news, and Sheldon Keefe's still here, and Struddy's coming up later this afternoon. Darren Dreger's still to come. Jerry's percentages in about an hour. We got Steve Staios coming up on his decision to hire Travis Green in Ottawa, his take on what he's seen out of the playoffs this year, what is expected to be a busy offseason in Ottawa. There's a lot to get into with Steve. So we'll catch up with Steve Staios in about 10 minutes. And the Jays picked up a win today, so they get a split in Philly. And they needed that after last night, because last night was wild, man.
Dude,
what the hell was going on?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Online fans were packing it in on the season, man.
Right. Well, they were, 4 games under 500 after last night. They had a minus 46 run differential, which is absurd. Like, you're getting crushed. Yeah, Barrios got crushed, and Bassett pitched well today. They got some big hits. Bichette finally had himself a big hit. He was a mess last night. Like, it's just so weird to watch him play. Like, it's just wild to watch his approach at the plate, man. He's swinging at everything, and he cannot make good contact. But
dude, he's in I don't know what. Like,
it's a really bad place.
Yeah, it is. And he was the last guy. I thought he was one of those, like, I don't know how you describe, like an automatic stud where it's just every year it's just so good. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't see this for him at all.
No.
He's the last guy I would have thought.
Yeah, hitting like 190 with one home run.
And I told you guys that the reports out there this is from Twitter, but they were verified baseball people saying there is a lot of action around Bo and Vladdy. So who knows if they were sniffing this out? Who knows?
Possibly. I mean, he was hitting 6th in the lineup today. And it was necessary. Again, he's got a slash line of 191, 246, 267. On base percentage 246. Wow. Like that's just wild, man. For a guy of his caliber and his talent and his track record, what he's done in the past. Right. All right, Steve Staios coming up. Jerry's percentages in about an hour. Positive Wednesday. I think that was a very positive first segment.
Yeah.
Lots of positivity. Everyone's in a good mood. And we're off and running. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Steve Staios coming up here in a moment. PWHL playoffs kicking off. Toronto, Minnesota. Toronto picking Minnesota instead of Boston, which I think is a smart play.
What do you make of that?
That's a smart play. I would avoid Boston, too, if I had anything to do with Toronto at this point. We've got that cooking tonight on TSN, right here on TSN Radio as well. We got the Wells Fargo down at Quail Hollow this week. I love it. Big picks coming up, courtesy of TaylorMade later this afternoon.
I got to get out on that track one day.
Yeah. I just want to play 18. Like, that 18th hole, that's where Harry Higgs launched it into the hospitality tent.
Dude, there's been all kinds of guys that have just absolutely soiled themselves on that hole. Like, it's a hard par 4, man.
Really tough. Really tough. Remember that par that Rory made a couple of years ago to win there was unreal. He was in the water and somehow got out of it. And it's great course. And it's a jam-packed field. It's an elevated event. And then we got the PGA next week at Valhalla, and the big cat will be there again. I guess he's been there this week. Tiger, little scouting trip.
Not doing it, dude. I'm not. We're not doing that again, man. Buying into it. If he says one time, I can get this, like, I'm shutting the TV off.
Not at that place. He has won there before, though. Isn't that where he walked in and pointed at the putt? That was Valhalla, I think, in 99. I think,
stinky old Bob May with his little saggy trousers. He played out of his mind, little Bob May. He was outrageous. And everything Tiger did, he had an answer for, and Tiger just pulled it out. But I can't, if he says, I can win this, I'm shutting the TV. And I won't watch 1 second, man.
You are going to watch it.
Yes, you will. You're going to watch it. You'll be captivated by it. Take advantage while you can.
What's the odds that he says that I can pick this one off?
Probably high. I mean, he's that's his move. Like it's the same thing every time with Tiger. Of course he's going to say, I'm feeling good. I got through 72 holes at Augusta. That was really the goal, right? It'll be revisionist history in terms of how he's tracking what he actually accomplished. And he played well through 36 holes at Augusta, right? He was 1 over. The cut line was like 6 over. He cruised through the cut, but there's no way he's going to win. Like, this track will be playing so tough. The field is loaded. Tiger's not. He's got no. He could. I'm not sure he could beat Bob May in a match play at Valhalla this week.
I'm looking at it right now. Bob May, and he said the saggy trousers. There's pictures of him.
His gear was wild,
dude. He was 5'8", 135.
That's what it says.
Just
Bobby May hit 235 cuts off the tee.
And he was so dialed in. Like, Tiger had no business winning that tournament.
Right. Well, he did that to Rocco, too, right, at the US Open.
That stinky little Bob May was hitting butter fades to a foot, and Tiger was chipping in on him with his soaking trousers. It was outrageous.
It really was. Like, it was just like two different sports being played by completely different athletes.
It was.
You know, it was David versus Goliath. Like, Tiger looked like $1 million. He was 24. He had great gear. And Bob May is just trying to get off the tee clean and hit greens and reg. And Tiger broke his heart. All right, Struddy coming up in about a half an hour. We've got a couple of games in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. Yeah, we got Jerry's in about an hour. But news this week out of Ottawa, Travis Green, our buddy, friend of the show, Travis Green has gotten the gig. You will be the new head coach of the Ottawa Senators moving forward. And a chat about that amongst some other things pertaining to the Sens, the playoffs, the NHL world in general. Here's the president of hockey operations and general manager of the Ottawa Senators, Steve Staios, back on OverDrive. How you doing, Steve?
Good, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. I know it's been a busy week, and it sounds like it was a pretty lengthy interview process. Tell us how you ended up landing on Travis Green.
Yeah, so I think lengthy is probably a good way to put it. I think when I decided to make the coaching change mid-season, you're always in the process of evaluating, but had a longer runway. Having Jacques Martin come in and right the ship for the last half of the season, but looked around and really, I mean, you go through these processes and you get to talk to some, great coaches, great leaders, and really it comes down to the fit. Like all these gentlemen can coach, and the fit with Travis, as I was going through the process, it just kept landing back on Travis for all the right reasons. And again, you go through these processes where you're looking for a coach, and sometimes, you have people available, but they might not be a great fit. But I think us landing on Travis, I think, is perfect for our group.
Stevie, you've mentioned the age of the group, and they're young guys, and they've got to turn the corner. Who is the most important person in the organization for that to happen? Is it Travis? Is it you for what you put around them? Who is the most important factor or person to help the change?
I mean, it's a good question, O-Dog, but it's a shared responsibility. I don't, I think it's including the players. I think we all have to continue to drive ourselves to get better, but I don't manage by hiring a head coach and just telling him to figure it out. I think that there's areas in our organization and, on our roster where I need to help the coach, and the coach has to come in, and Travis has to come in and certainly be direct with his messaging and, firm with his approach and create that environment for the players as well. But it's a shared responsibility. I think that the head coach has the most direct impact on the group. And I believe in Travis. And I think that just going through this interview process and his approach, and his experience, I think when you look at, we're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs right now, and there's a few coaches in there that, everybody would love to have, and they're coaching contending teams now. And, when I look back on it, when I look at their careers, they're in a similar situation after Travis's first go around. And I do think that you improve as a coach and you have the ability to learn from those experiences. And we're excited about the future.
What is it that Travis Green maybe sold to you guys in terms of what he's going to attack, first and foremost? The one thing he feels he can change, that he has to change, that obviously, yourself and your staff were believers in?
Well, I think he's a lot more firm than he gets credit for. I think in watching him coach and, watching his demeanor, the one area I think that he's a very demanding coach, but he also has the ability to communicate. And I think that's important. I think that's important for any team in any age, but especially where we are in our growth as a group. So that was really intriguing to me. I don't think, if you ask Travis, I don't think there's one area, Brian, but I think that just overall, I think what we want to do is we want to raise the standards of how we do things. Again, I think Jacques did a great job of being able to set those standards in the back half of the year on some of the details. And I like the way we were playing, as we're closing out the season from that perspective. So, but I don't think there's one area for Travis to go into and look at. I think overall, I think he's going to come in and be demanding for this group. He's going to expect a lot from them, and we're hoping the results follow.
You hear a lot of talk about coaches that are out there, that are available, and a lot of them seem to have the same qualities, maybe just different experiences. Former players, guys that are firm, accountability seems to be a word that gets thrown around, but also you have to be progressive to work with the newer athlete, today's athlete. Is that some of the stuff that, Travis had checked those boxes and you kept coming back to Travis in that scenario, Steve?
It's exactly it, Noodles. I really do think that, the firm and hard approach, for it to be lasting, I think that there has to be a level of communication and understanding, and that's how you get buy-in from the athlete. Any generation. I mean, we were a little bit different when we were going through it, but certainly with this generation, I think that there's, and for all the right reasons, I think holding them accountable, but having them understand why, and that team first attitude is what we want to bring here. And I think that's a sweet spot for Travis. He worked with a group in Vancouver around the same sort of part of their growth and development. And I think to me, he has the ability to be able to hold the players accountable with a great line of communication to them as well.
Stevie, we talk about it all the time. Why do you think there's so many coaches being replaced in today's age? Like, why is that happen? Is it just because it's kind of the easiest thing to do? You can't move out players? Well, it's a good question. I think, you talk about shelf life with coaches. And I think the messaging to the group, sometimes, unfortunately, just it grinds on them, and a new voice seems to have that effect that you're looking for as a manager to bring. Well, we also mentioned that, Stevie. It's just like the one reason is because you generally see the response right after. Like there's just, you look at the Edmonton Oilers this year. The Kings picked it up. It's like they do get a response, which is a scary thing for the coaches.
It really is, and I think they know what they've signed up for to a certain degree as well. But it's
sure.
That coaching bump is real, and it happens. And I mean, I could even take it back to when I was making the decision to bring Jacques in. But we weren't looking for a coaching bump. I was looking for more of a stabilizing type of. So I guess it's all in what you look for and where your group is, and that's up to me to be able to assess exactly what we need. So. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough profession. It's a great profession. You're part psychologist, strategist, your mentor, your coach. It's a challenging job. As far as moving players out, you're right. I mean, there's part of that as well, where, you have players on long-term contracts and that becomes a factor. So you look for ways to be able to ignite your group. And I guess, unfortunately for coaches, is you do have that turnover.
With Steve Staios of the Ottawa Senators, I'm curious, the messaging from your standpoint, from Travis's standpoint to the fans, where, Michael Andlauer just got the team a year ago. You just got here less than a year ago. Your staff has just been assembled. Now Greeny's there. So from your standpoint, new ownership, new coach, new management, like the clock is just kind of ticking and it just got started. But as you know, there's longstanding fans there that they don't look at it that way. They just look at the team, and the team hasn't been in the playoffs in a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious how you marry that, Steve, like, trying to allow people to, be frustrated and understand that obviously it hasn't been good enough, yet you guys are just getting started. So how do you marry the two, and what kind of messaging do you have for your fans when they recognize you just got there, but they've been here before you and they want some success?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do feel for them, but it's a balance as far as messaging. But I continue to think, Brian, just make sure you're doing what's right. And sometimes I think you can get in these situations where you react quickly, you make rash decisions. I think we've proven here, myself and Pooley and Michael, on making sure that the strategy is right and not do anything rash. We want to build this thing so we can not only get to the successful level that we want to get to, but have it sustainable as well. And I think far too many times, if you look back, teams can make quick decisions and to try and get a boost right away. But again, the goal here is to make sure that we do things right, and keeping the thought of trying to get there quickly. Like, we really want to be urgent in our approach, but certainly we have to have the long-term view in sight as well.
We all love Brady Tkachuk. We talk about him all the time. We love watching him play, and he's a throwback. He's an old school guy, and he's your captain. Fights a lot, though. Showed a lot of emotion, maybe some frustration down the stretch. We're like, how much do you lean on him, considering he's still a young guy? But he's capable of playing every possible way the game, is going to be played. But to keep the emotions in check, is that something that you kind of need from him, or do you like that he's just going out there and, he's going to lay it on the line and let people know how he feels?
I mean, I think we all love that about Brady. He brings it every night and every shift. And, we're trying to build around that. We're trying to build around that attitude that he brings to the game. And he's still maturing as well. And I think that, he is so driven and brings it every night. And that we want to make sure that, he continues to do that and build around him to support that. And I think with Travis coming in and being able to lead and mentor the group and our leadership in particular, but we are a relatively young, we are a young group. And I know it's not, it's hard to win in this league, as you see, but our average age, we're in the top 5 youngest teams in the league. And so I think Brady needs that support. I think Travis, as a leader, will continue to help him develop and bring that support for him. But I mean, as far as you don't want him to go out there and fight all the time, for sure. But he competes so hard and wants it so badly that it's inevitable for him. But no, we're proud to have him as our captain.
Steve, everybody talks that it's a copycat league. If you could take something out of what you've seen so far out of the first round and heading into the second round and apply it to your group, what would you see from the way that some of these teams are built?
Well, built and how they play with details, Noodles. It's crazy. I mean, there's no room on the ice, and that's playoff hockey. And so I think the level of detail that goes into it, and it's the best. I mean, the competitiveness of the Stanley Cup playoffs, it just brings the best out of everybody. But for me, I've said it. I'd like to add, some veteran type of players. And you talk about Brady Tkachuk, and you want him to have that support from a leadership standpoint. I mean, it's a challenge. It's hard to find those types of players, and when teams have them, they want to keep them. But it would be good for this group. There's so much room for this group to continually grow internally. I need to help try and support that with what I do. Travis has his work to do with the group, but really, I just think that as they grow internally with more experience and become veterans in their own right, it would be nice to have some players with that scar tissue in and around them to help guide them along as well.
Well, congrats on getting this first step done with Travis here. I'm sure are you preparing for a really active offseason? I mean, you guys now know where you're going to pick in the draft and all that. Like, how much activity should Sens fans, NHL fans be expecting out of you guys in the next few months?
Well, we certainly have some goals in mind on what we want to do, but we were active at the deadline as well, and there wasn't anything that made sense. And going back to my point before, to make a deal just to make a deal is not what I want to do. I want to make sure that it's right. So we're going to pursue it. We'll pursue it hard on what we've prioritized as far as maybe adding to this roster. So hard to really tell how active we'll be. We'll certainly be active in discussions and pursuing it, but hopefully we get some things done that can help stabilize our group leading into the season.
Well, good luck with that, Steve. We always appreciate you doing this, and we'll do it again down the road. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Great talking to you.
Here's Steve Staios, the president of Hockey Ops and GM of the Ottawa Senators. Travis Green behind the bench. You got Staios, you got Pooley, you got a new owner.
Yeah.
I
wonder if he's looking for something, and I don't think he's expecting to hear like a McDavid, it's cup or bust, but he's a pretty smart guy, and he's a great guy. He will know if things mean business or not. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's a guy showing up. What did you guys say? Marchand went to the rookie camp or whatever. Like, there's going to be something that's going to signal to him that these guys are serious and that they're not there to just piss around and see what happens. You know what I mean? And I wonder if he's going to be like pissed if he doesn't see it, or just how that whole thing's going to go, because he's going to see something where he knows what he's going to get into. And that's going to dictate his kind of approach and probably mental space for the first couple months of the season.
Sure. There's work to be done there. He talked about it, and I think he's bang on. He's not going to tip his hand, but talking about, potential veteran guys to help, the young guys along. I think that's what has to be a focus on, is to make your team hardened. And he talked about having players with some scar tissue. That's guys who have been through the playoffs. That's guys who have, can help the team when they're up 3-1 in Arizona and can't find a way to close that game out. There were times this past year where you could see the team, they were good enough to get the lead, but then there were some times where it's like, okay, how do we keep this lead? Like, what are we doing? Are we structured enough? Or are we experienced enough? And that's where I think that management group is probably going to look at, is adding around the spine of that team. There's big decisions to be made. A lot of organizations, when you don't make the playoffs, you've got to find a way to continue to get better. I think they like what they have, but there's lots of work to be done. And I think they trust. This is step one of maybe, who knows, 10, 12 moves. Yeah. Who knows what it is, but they're going to get to work. And I think they know what they want to do. Easier said than done, though, because as he mentioned, the teams that were able to acquire some of these players that have really helped the teams get to the next level, those guys are under contract. They're not a dime a dozen. You're not just pulling guys off the scrap heap to add veteran guys. They got to be the right fit for your organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be it'll be a grind. Yet now they've got the coach in place, management in place, ownership. You got stability there. Yeah. In Ottawa, Tkachuk's there. Stützle's there. Couple of other young forwards you like. Couple of young defensemen you like. Yeah. So they got to grow. They got to get goaltending. I mean, that goes without saying. Yeah. But they're going to be an intriguing team. I think them and Montreal have the chance to really be active this offseason, because they're trying to make that next step.
They got to be the same as the Leafs guys. The Leafs should be sick of losing in the first round of the playoffs. The Ottawa Senators got to show up at camp saying, I'm sick embarrassed about
not making the playoffs.
Yeah, and just getting dummied, and I've had enough, and I want to change it. Yep. So if they all feel like that and it's genuine, then you got a shot to turn the corner. If it's just like, give me my cake, see what happens, and I'm out of here, you got serious problems. And if you don't get a save, you got serious problems too. We all know that.
Yeah.
Jason Strudwick in about 15 minutes. Jerry's percentage is coming up.
We
Struddy
fired
will be on
up that.
fire.
Oh,
we haven't
God.
heard from him since the Leafs lost. Edmonton's playing tonight. Struddy will be in one
it'll
today.
be insufferable.
He'll be insufferable today. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Struddy coming up. Jerry's percentage is coming up. PGA picks for the Wells Fargo. The Jays with a win this afternoon. So they get a split in Philly. It all worked out. All worked out for the Jays. And Bassett was really good today. That Tom Brady roast was hugely
Unreal.
popular. It was very well done. I read he got paid like $30 million.
What?
That's what I heard.
Well, he'd get a piece of the action on Netflix. It was a live 3-hour special.
Oh,
I was wondering why he would have signed up for it. Now I know.
That's
he got
why.
30 sheets for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding, dude. Like, you want to roast? How do I get in line for that? Not
I
that
was like,
Netflix
these
is-
comments are, I'm getting older now. I'm like, these comments are offside. I can't even watch it. For 30 million, you could say way worse than that.
Oh,
Yeah,
of
it
course,
was-
dude. Physical
I
harm
loved
if
it.
you want.
I
Whatever you
loved
need.
it. I thought it was awesome.
I thought it was really well done. Yet you see Netflix reportedly buckle to the Kardashians because Kim was getting booed, right? And I guess they've obviously put it up on Netflix. Naturally, it's their product, and they've like cleaned that up or like
What?
censored it out. That's what people are
That's
saying.
what they're.
Dude,
that's
how
what they're
could
going to censor
someone
out of
so-
all the other comments.
How could
All the
someone
other
so
comments.
famous could care about that? That's what I don't get about
No
these
kidding.
celebrities. Hockey players, you're so wealthy and you're so good. Why do you care about every single
Right.
tweet and what every comment? Just go home and have a great life.
And you're not a comedian. You're Kim Kardashian. You're reading off a teleprompter. What does it matter?
What
she
are we
probably got
doing
paid too.
here?
I know it's
sure she did.
it's so silly. So
Get
lame.
into it later. It's
All right,
ridiculous.
Struddy and Jerry's coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.